Pig news. Guys, check it out. You guys know how we're living in a very normal time period? A very normal time period with a lot of normal stuff going on. Famously, this is the case. Yeah, on his large brain Truth Social website, Donald Trump is now advocating for the overturning of the Constitution. Not an exaggeration. He just says that. Can I do the voice? So, with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC, the Democrat Party, do you know, do you throw the press? I can't. It's too grammatically incoherent. Do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found within the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. So, for those who aren't caught up on all the drama, the specific thing that he's referring to here when he talks about newfound evidence of widespread fraud and deception is the revelation that in 2020 the Biden campaign team requested that Twitter take down the revenge porn nudes of Hunter Biden's fat, girthy cock that had been posted to Twitter. A process which was not governmental in nature because Biden was not a president at the time, and a process which Donald Trump had also engaged in as president, which was noted in that very same Twitter thread. So let's overturn the Constitution. Not good, probably, pretty openly fascistic. Interestingly, I feel like if anything, this really strengthens the rhetoric. I mean, if you're talking, to what degree of legitimacy could you make the argument that Donald Trump shouldn't even be allowed to run? I mean, the military, like soldiers, swear allegiance to the Constitution. What happens if a president's like, yeah, we should overturn the Constitution, I feel like at this point you could make pretty much any argument for just the complete removal of Donald Trump from political life, and it would be a legitimate argument. Wouldn't even matter if it was grammatically or legally correct. You could just, throw some dice on the ground and come up with a correct argument. It doesn't really matter because, like we're kind of at the end point anyway, right? I mean, how much more open can we get than this, It's difficult to think like, yes, well, surely at some point something will change, but no, nothing will change. It seems pretty clear that, the runaway train that is still a couple years from hitting the White House will just be allowed to continue running on the track in a runaway fashion without any significant changes being made. He's not actually going to win, can he? I still think DeSantis has the edge over Donald Trump. However, one, DeSantis is really not that much better. In fact, I think he's quite a bit worse in a lot of ways. And two, the problem is that Republicans aren't denouncing what Donald Trump has said. Republicans, at least some of the pundits, have turned towards this kind of like faux civility argument where like, oh, Donald Trump is, he's so disagreeable. DeSantis is actually the future of the Republican Party. But they don't actually care about him threatening to overturn the Constitution because they're fine with that. They don't care. That's fine by them. If the president overthrows the Constitution, he's no longer the leader of the military and can't command them. Well, if only things worked that way. Unfortunately, can you explain how DeSantis is a fascist? In DeSantis's case, I think you can just look up the definition of fascism and then point at him. I don't know, dictionary definition. He fits essentially every possible line you could run for. Oh, that's right. This just happened. DeSantis's lawyers were forced to legally define the term woke in their court battle over the Stop Woke Act, which is an effort to prevent any teachers or professors from receiving funding if they teach woke things. No kidding. The legal definition they've settled on for woke is the belief that there are systemic injustices in American society and the need to address them. Meaning they literally want to ban teachers from teaching the idea that inequality exists and should be stopped. This is literally like the most explicit and heavy-handed government censorship imaginable. Not even targeting something specific like critical race theory or the teaching of trans or gay identities, but rather the very concept of inequality must be stomped out by the state government. Funnily enough, it's really tempting. I want to do this like smarmy thing where I'm like, oh well, good luck saying that there are biases against white men in the future, huh? But you know what? They're still going to. Like, do you think the people who would be filing injunctions or like making motions to revoke the salaries of teachers or professors, do you think they're going to do that against people who say that white men are being disadvantaged? Or Christians? Do you think they're gonna do that? No, of course not. Very much like the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, which ostensibly also applies to any indication that a professor is straight, but in reality would not ever actually pan out that way. It doesn't actually matter whether the text of the law or the bill makes any sense. It's just an excuse for the exercise of raw state power. You see stuff like this all the time in fascist societies. The promotion of incredibly vague, indiscriminate, and sometimes self-contradictory law as a way of giving the state and agents of the state like leeway to abuse that power if they want to, but never to use it in a way that disadvantages them. You see this all the time. It's really, really common. It's actually almost impossible to, purely in legal terms, draw clear lines of discrimination because law is complicated and there's always something that can be done. What you do is you just give people in power the ability to abuse their power, and then just rely on the power differential to keep that law from ever being employed in a way that would hurt them. Guys, understand? DeSantis has already been firing or pressuring teachers who are more liberal leaning out of teaching and then instantly replacing them with far right lunatics. Yeah. Remember, it is there this is the guy who's being promoted as the alternative to Trump. This is one of the reasons I'm so worried about liberals buying into this, like, oh, yeah, well, DeSantis is bad, but at least he's not as uncivil as Trump. In reality, DeSantis is a lot smarter than Trump. Trump is an idiot who will go on social media and blather about ending constitutional law, whereas DeSantis will just methodically seize control of his state by banning and replacing everything he can to make sure that everyone in power just supports him. Like we've said before, and I will never stop repeating this point because I feel like it's so goddamn relevant, you know? Law and democracy are a lot like fortifications in the sense that unless there are people guarding them, they are useless. If you want to defend an area against incursions, you know, you can build all the walls, lay all the barbed wire and tank traps, you can put as many minefields down as you want. But if nobody's guarding them, eventually and inevitably, any group can make their way through. There's no set of systems that can't be worked through. Every wall can be surmounted or brought down. Every minefield can be activated or traversed safely. Every bit of barbed wire can be clipped off or covered. There's nothing you can do unless there are people guarding. And the analogy here would be that democratic norms cannot survive just by intelligently constructing a bunch of like legal norms. You need people actively defending them against people like, say, Trump or DeSantis, people who will use their power to actively tear apart those boundaries. If you don't do that, then there's really no point in putting them up. The point of those boundaries is to give you time, but they've had time. Since 2016, Donald Trump and the Republican Party have been very aggressively appointing judges to the federal judiciary, appointing Supreme Court judges, weaning away at democratic protections, establishing and normalizing talking points and rhetoric about lost elections, you know, like the big lie, that kind of stuff. Time has been given. We've had 8 years, or wait, sorry, 6 years. I forgot it's not 2024 yet, with no substantial like pushback yet offered. Nothing to keep the Republicans from slowly growing power. So yeah, that's not good. Buy guns, store water. More V. Harper in 3 days. Is it really in 3 days? Yeah, I know that Biden's been appointing a lot of judges, SDL, but that on its own is just not going to be enough. When is the More V. Harper decision? Wait, does that mean that it's going to be? Does that mean that it's going to be the Yeah, the later day of the 24-hour stream. Yep. Set for argument on December 7th could spell the end of democracy in the United States. Nice. No, not the decision. Yeah, they hear the arguments, but you'll be able to get an early feel for how things are going to go just when the arguments start to be heard. You know, people will talk in the court, you know, they'll say, this and that. Do you think Kanye gave them the courage to go even further? Well, yeah, of course. Like we've gone over, a lot of Republicans just don't disagree with anything Kanye said. Neo-Nazism never went away in America. Never, obviously, the Republicans. People like skinheads and the Ku Klux Klan have always been the stupider white supremacists. The smarter ones work within the systems that they can to maximize their outcomes and slowly normalize their positions. This is the reason why so many Republicans were palling around with Kanye when he was very, very, very clearly like an insane far right guy. Continued to defend him and promote this benefit of the doubt when he started doing the anti-Semitism stuff. And even now with the full-on literally defending Hitler stuff, a lot of them are just like, Kanye, you were so cool, but you've gone too far by saying it out loud, you know? Federalists have been doing this for 40 years. Yes, yes. Do you think this will open coping liberals' eyes towards the danger on the rise, the normalization of the extreme right wing? I think they know that. The problem is they don't know what to do. Liberals are... It seems to me that a lot of liberals in this country are aware of how far gone the Republicans are. From what I've seen, not fully, not enough, but there's definitely like a broad tendency to understand. The issue is that they don't know what needs to be done. They cannot envision a solution outside of like tut-tutting and how dare you sirring. And the problem is that fascists, not only can they envision a solution outside of tut-tutting, they've been fantasizing about it for decades. You know, Turner Diaries shit, Day of the Rope. Republicans and, their cohorts have absolutely no problem working outside the law to achieve their political goals because their ideological framework, unlike liberalism, is not, bound by bureaucratic hand-wringing. Anyway, seems dumb. Yeah, unfortunately, the average liberal would look at you incredulously. They'd shrug. They'd say, what do you want me to do? Vote twice? Well, I mean, yes, of course. Vote 5 times. Whatever. The problem is that liberals don't have a strong leader to guide discourse. This is the main problem. The Republicans do. Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis are both extremely capable. Like, really think about it, If a Republican ever wants to, like, wake up, get the new talking point, get the new thing to talk about or think about, the new thing to believe, they can just go on, like, one of innumerable government or private, like, pages or media sites or whatever. For liberals, this is just not the case. There isn't really, like, a liberal media. The closest thing that we have is MSNBC, I think. CNN has been openly promoting fascist talking points lately. MSNBC is television only, which just does not capture the interest of people as much. Twitter is openly far right now. Facebook is boomer hell, and therefore at least largely conservative. YouTube has biases towards conservative content recommendations. And Joe Biden is just completely incompetent when it comes to directing national discourse. There is not any, like, wing. Yeah, Tumblr. Yeah, trust me, Tumblr is not going to kick it, okay? What do you want them to say? I want them to say what I say. Is it really that much to ask that the Democratic Party, a party which was able to get 77 million votes for its fielded candidate in 2020, might have one single aggressive and active, like, representative for its positions? Is that really, like, that difficult? Is it that much to ask? They don't seem to have any issue doing this over with the Republicans. They seem to do it quite effortlessly, actually. It's natural to them. Oh, 81 million. 81 million. 81 million votes. Also, Hakeem Jeffries, the new leader of the Dems in the House, is even more hostile to lefties than Pelosi was. I have soup brain when it comes to remembering how elections work. Should we have a strong candidate lined up for 2024 by now? Yes, we definitely should. Like it, like you guys notice how look at what the Republicans have done. Donald Trump was their president. He has been an active, vocal promoter of his own and Republican interests. The GOP has been, like, actively promoting DeSantis as another frontrunner. Like, this is very basic political strategy. The GOP has been making an effort to frame information, present stuff in a way that makes it clear that DeSantis isn't just like a Republican governor. Can you name every Democrat and Republican governor? No, of course you can't. But you know DeSantis, and that's because they have made an effort to specifically promote him as their guy moving forward. Here's a question. Gavin Newsom, that's the Democratic governor of California, right? How much do you hear about him? Gavin Newsom the Democratic governor of California. That means that he is the governor of a state that represents, I think, the eighth largest economy in the world. He presides over tens of millions of people, larger than Texas or Florida. How much do you hear about Gavin Newsom? Fifth largest, goddamn. Very little? Yeah. That's because the Democrats are incredibly incompetent at getting people's attention directed towards people who might potentially be more politically powerful in the future. They're terrible at it. Democrats have no ability to like manage their assets. It's ridiculous. It's genuinely like embarrassing. They are uniquely incompetent at it. Feels like even Obama was a fluke. They wanted Clinton. Yeah, no, the Democrats, the party is just run by a bunch of 85-year-old like legacy millionaires who pat themselves on the back for being the progressive like wing of the American electorate because they are marginally better on a bunch of issues than like the Republicans are, and sometimes somewhat better. They are so obsessed with the idea that history's, like pendulum swings back towards them reliably, that they have no drive or interest. They're complacent. Vaush, in partial defense of the Dems, poli-sci folks often note Dems are a coalition of a larger number of more disagreeing ideologies and identities. Yeah, that's their fault. Dems do nothing to like rally or unify their constituency at all. Republicans are great at this. Republicans used to encompass a bunch of different interests. Now they have been effectively cordoned into like a very thin line of overt fascism. Dems just are so incompetent at this. There's no like unifying message. There's no, okay, we'll give and we'll take this with regards to like social democracy versus liberal capitalism. There's no attitude taken towards like like setting aside differences when it comes to promoting a broader interest. There's no like broad message left on how we're supposed to handle given issues, talking points in response to given rhetoric. There's no effort to constantly humiliate and shit talk their enemies over like flagrantly lying over and over. It's insane. It's genuinely insane. Guys, you realize that right now if you go on Twitter, not only are the right-leaning... Okay, like, here, even before Elon took over Twitter, why is it that all of the big viral messages that come from right-leaning people are from pundits and politicians, and all the big viral messages that come from left-leaning people are random left-leaning people in America whose message goes viral just, like, organically? Have you noticed that? Seriously, if you see all of the trending, like, conservative-leaning tweets, all the ones that, like, go viral or whatever, they're from people whose job it is to push that message. But when left-leaning people are present in, like, the higher-ups of like, well, how many likes or retweets for a left-leaning message, it's just some chick who has a bathroom selfie with her picture. You know? It's ridiculous. And that's because, like, Democrat politicians are weak. Democrat, like, pundits are weak. There are a couple of exceptions. AOC reliably does well, but outside of stuff like that, and AOC is like a 30-year-old, okay? She can't represent the entire Democratic Party. That's ridiculous. Republicans have literally like dozens of accounts that reliably, consistently hit viral tweets for retarded people just by spewing the same bullshit over and over and over again because they have a strong message that they consistently promote. Not so for Democrats. Fetterman does pretty well. It's not going to keep. Do we really want Democrats to behave that way, though? Yes. We're not talking about being wrong. We're not talking about being dishonest. We're talking about being dogmatic, which, again, don't want to live under fascism. Yeah, I saw this. Elon Musk is a megalomaniac. Anyone who has, like, a Christ complex is going to fantasize about themselves on the cross. There's been, like, one notable left-wing, like, politically motivated killing in the past decade, I think. The idea that the literal wealthiest man on earth. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah. By who? John Connor? I mean, again, it's like a Christ thing, right? He probably thinks that, like, he's shaken up the world